Well, look, yeah, thanks so much to everybody who's attending this evening. Of course, we are here to hear a lot more about Zarali and their upcoming investment round on Birchal. My name is Robin. I'm here representing Birchal, and I'm here with Cam, the co-founder of Zarali. And we're really delighted to work with companies like Zarali and support them really as they continue to grow quite significantly at this point in time. But the real structure for tonight's webinar, what we're going to do is we're going to have a quick presentation, which Cam is going to go over the business and some really high level key details about it. And then we're going to be opening up for questions. And what I'd really love to ask everybody to do is try and exclusively use the Q&A feature, because that allows us to really go in there and see your questions and make sure that they're all facilitated and answered as best as possible. So really appreciate everybody for attending here. Cam, I'm going to throw over to you to quickly introduce yourself and yeah, run us through this presentation.
Great, thanks, Robin. Well, first of all, thanks so much for everyone joining the call today and for everyone watching online at a later date. Really appreciate your attention with this equity crowdfund. And yeah, we're really excited by the concept of walking the trail with you as part of the Zorali family. So I want to make tonight and the time you spend evaluating Zorali efficient. So we're going to go on a 2.5-year journey in about 20 minutes, and then we're going to open it up for some Q&A after that. So for a little introduction, that's myself, Cam, and Elise, my wife, and Zarali co-founder. And I guess we're a couple with a strong passion for life outdoors, and we love spending our days hiking, surfing, and exploring the many trails around where we live here in Ocean Grove in Victoria. And Elise and I have always shared this deep appreciation for nature, and we've always loved sharing that with others. And we're the ones that you'll see inviting their friends for a dip in the ocean, yes, even in winter, or hanging out with friends along the coast, or going on camping trips further afield. And because for us, nature is really a restorer. It really brings a sense of renewal to our lives and our friendships. And yeah, it just brings a whole heap of health and happiness to our days, which brings us to, I guess, how Zarali was created and really the problem that we've really set out to solve. So like I said, spending time in nature makes us feel happier, makes us feel healthier, makes us feel connected to ourselves and each other. But just like I think everyone else probably on this call, we'd become overly tuned to the pings, rings, and looming deadlines of modern life. And for us and pretty much everyone on our team at Zarali, too much inside time makes us antsy. Definitely for our golden retriever Coda, he gets very antsy when he's sitting here all day and we haven't taken him out for a little walk along our nature reserve here at lunchtime. And you know, we know we're not alone. We're amid a mass migration indoors with people increasingly living in cities and connected to technology 24/7. And it's like this, we're all experiencing this collective dislocation from the natural world, which really comes into our idea for Zarali, which was to create a brand that reconnects people with nature and a sustainable outdoor lifestyle. So we really see Zarali as much more than an outdoor brand. We really see it as an invitation to reconnect with nature and a sustainable outdoor lifestyle, almost like a therapeutic remedy that renews and restores. And we believe that by solving this problem and becoming the most recognized wellbeing centered brand on the market will allow Zarali to do remarkable things at grand scale. So our mission is quite plain and simple. We're on a mission to get the world outside, and you'll see that flow into everything that we do. So what we do at our core is we make outdoor gear and apparel. So our range goes from tents to t-shirts, camp chairs to cookers, cutlery, jackets, hats, backpacks, even dog gear, and more. It's all consciously designed, everything you need to get out there, because that's what's most important for Zarali. It's simply getting the world outside. And then our customer, we like to see Zorali as standing for the new adventurers. And I'll explain a little bit about what that means to us. You know, we really see the outdoor market having a big shift in recent years. And the new adventurers are not necessarily mountaineers with, you know, ice axes in mitts or crampons on boots. They're the people from every walk of life, maybe like you guys joining on, who long to walk beneath forests, view waterfalls, and comb coastlines. They're urban hikers, day trippers, overnighters, weekenders, people drawn to answer nature's call, however that looks for them. So for Zarali people, which is what we like to call our customers and our community, for Zarali people, the outdoors is not a proving ground to be conquered. It's really a place to be enjoyed. It's undefined by a single activity or interest. It's all about getting out there for lifestyle, for mental health and well-being, for that feeling of awe that only nature can bring. And that's what Zarali really stands for. So, results since our first raise. So, as Robin was talking about it at the start, in August of 2019, we introduced Zorali to the world through our first equity crowdfund campaign, successfully raising the funds required to get Zorali off the ground from over 550 investors. And in just 2.5 years, what began as a celebration of our shared passion for the great outdoors has grown to surpass even our wildest expectations. Our revenue grew 618% from our first financial year to our second financial year, which was obviously a fantastic result. And our sales continued to grow significantly over those first 2 years, despite COVID-related delays and restrictions, which isn't necessarily an easy feat for an outdoor brand when people physically can't explore as they please. We've shipped over 23,000 orders across Australia and to 27 other countries. We've sold over 40,000 products, where for each product we plant 10 trees, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, amounting to a total of over $3 million in sales. So we've had a strong focus on increasing our average order value. We're a direct-to-consumer brand. We live online, an online retailer. So this focus has been really successful across our first 2 years, with an increase of over 100%, averaging at $180 per order. With a bunch of sellout products, our products got the love they deserve, and we've gathered over 1,600 five-star reviews to prove it. And as our inventory continues to move fast, we've seen a significant uptake in people wanting to pre-order Zarali products as the popularity of the brand continues to increase. Which is really why we've invested a lot of time and focus and resources into our product development team and ensuring we find the right suppliers that boast great experience and knowledge across the areas of product development, design, and manufacturing. And so a big focus for us, especially in the last 12 months, has been increasing our stock holdings and expanding our range, which is really the biggest goal for us with this equity crowdfund. And we've really seen a big correlation between an increase in our stock levels and product lines and an increase in sales. So we're hoping that through the crowdfund, we'll be able to increase our range, increase the level of stock that we hold, and further drive an increase in revenue. So as you'll probably see as you go through the offer documents next week and maybe dive a little bit deeper into our brand, substance is really at the heart of Zarali. And we've really built Zarali on the solid rock of a strong community filled with thousands of faithful fans and advocates. We've connected people to grow our brand awareness and love. And that's why a key focus for Zarali moving forward is around campaigns that deliver an emotional message, answering the call to spend more time in nature. And these campaigns all align with our hashtag, the journey calls and continue to position Zarali as one of the most well-being centered brands on the market. And if you look even a bit deeper into our hashtag on Instagram, cool little fact was we actually chose the journey calls because we're trying to find something that was completely unique and that the brand could own. And when we loved that idea of the journey calls and the invitation in that, when we actually looked at the hashtag, it had been used about 50 times. If you look on Instagram now, it's being tagged over 20,000 posts, which is pretty cool to see. That's really resonated with our community. So speaking of community, we've built a community of over 150,000 people across Instagram, Facebook, and recently, very exciting, opened a Zorali TikTok channel to inspire outdoor adventurers from all generations. Seriously, Rob and I expect you to check it out after this.
I'll follow you guys.
Great. So as mentioned before, one of the things that Zarali is really well known for is our tree planting. So for every product sold, we plant 10 trees in areas of deforestation through our partnership with Eden Project. So to date, we've planted a little more than that. I think it's about 489. I just checked the website before. We got a tree counter, which updates in real time. Over 480,000 trees via our partnership with Eden Projects. And we're actually sponsoring our own site in Kenya currently in a highly degraded forest region, providing over 48,000 days of employment for the local community as well, which is why we're really passionate about the tree planting, because it has a real holistic approach with not just the environmental side, but also the community side. So we're a climate neutral certified brand. And what that means is that we've joined 230 other companies who've committed to calculating their emissions. In our case, last year was 237 tons of carbon. And then we offset all of it. And we're doing so by investing in climate change solutions, including a mix of energy efficiency, methane destruction, and forestry projects. So the Zorali journey. The next 12 to 24 months are going to be big for Zarali. It marks the next step of our mission of getting the world outside with expansion not only domestically, but globally. With monthly product releases and a rapidly increasing demand, we'll be introducing more and more people to the great outdoors through our products. And the foundations of our first 2 years of trading have really set us up for ongoing success. And here's how we've created some rock solid foundations for growth. So in our first year, it really laid those foundations for scale. And we focused on creating a strong brand identity and growing our audience. We ran meetups, which was one of our favorite things we've probably done pre-COVID, to cultivate connections with our customers. We've really put a strong focus on setting foundations and systems to enable us to scale. So last financial year, we expanded our range, we expanded our team, and we increased our market share with 600% growth in revenue. And currently we're continuing to focus on expanding our range into more key outdoor categories, expanding international markets in line with global demand in target locations. We're further deepening our brand identity and expanding our offline presence with meetups and events to maintain high brand loyalty and engagement. So keep an eye out for that one. We're looking to achieve economies of scale as we increase our orders with our suppliers to reduce unit costs and increase gross profit margin. And we're obviously very focused on continuing to scale our revenue at a greater rate than our operating expenses in order to achieve and maintain profitability. So looking to the horizon. With a successful launch and 2 years behind us, we're in a great position to scale up while keeping fixed costs relatively steady and increasing overall net margin. As we continue to refine our processes, we expect more efficiencies across major costs like manufacturing, shipping, and advertising. Scaling up means we're able to diversify and extend our ranges to reach new and existing customers with the products to meet every season head on. So we'll be releasing fresh gear monthly across this year and beyond. Now, community is really the backbone of our success. So we'll be launching several campaigns inviting our community to celebrate the things that make us us, further building the substance and authenticity of our brand. We'll also be taking our online presence offline in the form of in-person meetups, hikes, and campouts to nurture more profound connections with our consumers, community, and nature. So the capital raise, this latest round of investment will help us grow our product range, capitalize on ever increasing demand, and expand our vision further into a global market, reaching new and existing customers with the products to meet every season head on. So this is really your invitation to join us as we take Zorali beyond. And some of the reasons why you might want to consider investing in Zarali are on the slides that follow. So we already have a streamlined operational infrastructure. We have an authentic and increasingly recognized brand with unique positioning in the market, connecting people with nature and a sustainable outdoor lifestyle. We have stellar, repeatable environmental credentials. We have a strong foundation of core sellout products. And maybe most importantly, we have a strong community of thousands of true fans and advocates to show for it. Now, all we need is you guys to help us capitalize on all of the above and take the Zarali vision further than ever before. So if you're interested in investing, you must submit an expression of interest to be involved in the private offer, which we'll be launching next week on Wednesday, the 16th of March at 12 p.m. Melbourne, Sydney time. So yeah, thanks for jumping on this call this afternoon, and thanks to everyone watching this back online. We're so excited to have captured your attention with this equity crowdfund, and we're even more excited by the concept of walking the trail with you as part of the Zarali family. And now what I've been really looking forward to is taking some questions from you guys. So I'll throw it over to you, Robin, and let's have some fun.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Great work, Cam. Yeah, some really impressive figures in there, like I said, and really, I'm so pleased to see some of the questions that we've got coming in. Of course, there are going to be questions that pop up throughout this entire process, so please use that Q&A feature as much as possible. In fact, it's already preloading. Cam, let's get on top of some of these questions so we can start getting through them. So just kicking off, Ken here has asked if you've made a taxable profit yet.
So as you'll see when we send out the offer document, our first 2 financial years, we made a loss. We've included our December 31 financials.
Yep.
Which we have made a small profit on there, which isn't an official tax return, but it is updated to December 31.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. So yeah, just so everybody is understanding of the offer document and those formal processes and what's required by the regime, the last financial year is what you'll see as a full financial year, and then what's included up until December is your management accounts effectively in the company. And that's awesome to hear that you've managed to gain a profit. So yeah, that's fantastic. Matthew here is just asked, saying, love your work. What's your and the exec committee's experience in scaling retail brands?
Yes, great question. So we do have a pretty young team. I literally have never worked another job in my life, so I can't say I've come from this big background in scaling brands. What I did do before Zarali was scaled a surf brand, which started in my parents' backyard when I was 19 years of age. And Zarali was really born out of the back of that, where a lot of people would say to me, I love your brand, but I don't surf. And I was always like, it's not about surfing, it's about getting people outside. So that's where we made that shift into the outdoor brands. And we basically launched Zarali from my previous experience. And yeah, the rest of our team, Elise actually used to work at Birchal. So she's been in an environment of a global brand where she was helping, she was designing women's wear. And then, yeah, the rest of our team, Jake, who's our product designer, used to work at quite a large brand who has scaled quite successfully. And yeah, he's probably had the most experience in the inner sanctums of that working. But yeah, I think one of the things that we're really big on is community, and we've really surrounded ourselves with a lot of people that have great experience in what we're trying to do, and we've benefited a lot from hanging out with those guys, and yeah, essentially having that mentor relationship.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm really glad you mentioned Monster Surf, because obviously that's where yeah, I came to know all about your plans for Zarali. And yeah, you really scaled and made quite a name for yourself, and you know how the business really grew because you hadn't gone down the traditional route of going and getting a job. You'd gone, hey, why don't I try and make these you know, surfboards and create this brand out of it? And it was a very different journey. So yeah, very, very unconventional path for you. Zoe here has asked the question, do you purchase carbon offsets or create them through tree planting?
Yeah. At this stage, we actually purchase carbon offsets. So our work with climate neutral is essentially a add-on to what we do with the tree planting. So we, and basically the main reason for that is, firstly, we, the organization that we work with, Climate Neutral, they're working with Eden projects to be able to certify them as official carbon credits. So if that was the case, we could probably just, like, our work with Eden projects would justify our climate neutral status, but currently we purchase carbon credits on top of what we do with the tree planting. So we really like to see ourselves as carbon positive by doing that, which is great, because obviously nature is really our inspiration. So we want to do everything we can to protect that, and if we're going over and above, we're stoked.
Yeah, awesome. And a question here from Sarah, which I'm sure you can cover in significant detail. What international markets are you in, and where do you plan to expand into?
Yeah,
well, you're probably waiting for this question, so I'll let you fire away.
So currently we have, I guess we got like quite a wide presence. We've had customers from over 27 countries. What we really want to do with the raise is deepen that presence in some of those key target locations. So biggest one that comes to our focus is the States, the US. So we actually have some pretty cool things already in the works. We're launching on a really cool outdoor retailer called Huckberry in about July of this year. So they reached out to us earlier this year, and they love the brand and they want to stock some of our core styles. So that'll be like our first step into the US market outside of what we do through our just online store. And yeah, we're getting increasingly more and more interest from the States, not just from customers, but also from larger companies looking at Zarali, which is a really positive sign as well. Another emerging market is Asia. We've had recently we've signed with a distributor in Taiwan, which is really cool. They've got a really cool outdoor scene, and they're this distributor came across Zarali and wanted to spread it into the Taiwan market. So that's happening this year as well. We're also got a big interest in the Japanese market, and we've got a really cool core group of fans in Japan that have actually started a Zorali Japan Instagram. You should look it up. It's
amazing.
Yeah. So with our permission, they asked if, because they already had so much product, they take great photos, and they're always sending us photos, and they asked if they could create the Zorali Japan Instagram. So we kind of gave them that blessing, and their dream is to work for Zarali one day if we have enough demand in the Japanese market. So that's another one that we kind of got our eye on as well. And then one that's probably a bit more left of field is that some direct to consumer brands are really diving into is actually China, which we've never really had a bit of a focus on, but it's getting more and more interest from customers and things like that too, which is a bit of an interesting one. And then obviously Europe and UK, but that'll probably be like further down the line.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much to everybody who's sending in all these questions. There are, a really good load of questions which we'll have to get through here. And Cam, I was just going to ask, should we probably stop sharing the screen just
sure.
Q&A format? I can do it up top here if you want me to. Oh yeah, you've already done it. Perfect. Yeah, perfect. There was a question there which was just probably more so for me, which I could see from Sarah at the bottom. So what are the investment options? Is it a share basis? And there's also a question here around, does equity crowdfunding pay dividends? I can kind of cover part of this, and then I will throw over to Cam just in terms of exit opportunities, because we do have to cover this every single time. In terms of what you're receiving, the offer is for shares in Zarali. So the offer document, which will be released as soon as the offer opens next week, will display exactly what the company is, the structure, and also the fact that the offer is for ordinary shares with voting rights. Every single investor in this round is receiving the exact same rights. So nobody is receiving preferential treatment at all, regardless of how much they're investing. So it's really clear to state that. But in receiving shares in a private company, they are liquid shares. So you cannot immediately just sell them. They are, basically you want to expect to be tied into the company for a certain period of time, usually pretty long term, which is why a lot of individuals, when they do consider investing into early stage startups, look at the longer term future of the business. And when it comes to something like dividends, of course, when you take a look at the use of funds table on the offer document for Zarali, you will see that the funds are being used to grow the business and hopefully take it from the scale it is at now to a much more significant scale. So dividends might be a future plan for the business in the future, and I'll let Cam kind of elaborate on that. And there might be a number of other exit opportunities that could be presented in the future, but I'll let Cam kind of elaborate on that point.
Great, thanks, Robin. Yeah, so as Robin mentioned, the shares that you buy into a private company are generally considered liquid, as you can't trade them on a forum like the ASX. But some of the potential exit options that we would consider that would create an opportunity for our shareholders, probably the main one is, which I slightly touched on it before, is if we would look to partner with a larger company when the time is right, if they had the structure and resources to help us scale at a greater rate globally, which would provide an exit point for shareholders. So we're happy to report that we've already had significant interest from these type of companies from here in Australia and in the US. And we're kind of keeping those doors open. We know we have so much potential to grow with the team that we currently have, and we're really confident in our ability to reach beyond 8 figures in annual revenue by ourselves. But I feel like once we get to a stage, kind of like the question before, about our experience scaling, like once we feel like we're capping out our current ability to like run a large team, run a large operation, that's when we would look to get to partner with a larger company, not just to like say goodbye to Zerali. Like we're really passionate about what we're building, but if we feel like they can help us spread our message further and greater, that's something that we would definitely consider, and that would provide probably the best exit opportunity for a shareholder. But as Robin mentioned, there's no guarantee any of those exit options will eventuate, and I guess you got to make your decision to invest based on the info provided, and always consider the risk warning that's a part of every crowdfund campaign.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, we've got so many questions here to try our best to get through, and there's the questions are great. So really appreciate everybody. No, I think you're doing a great job of answering them, because we want to make sure that we can cover as much information as possible here. So Simon, thanks for your question. Simon here has asked, where are you positioning against the outdoor brands, the big ones, i.e. Patagonia, and the specialists, the Sama Gear and Z-Packs?
Great question. Yeah, so I think for us, sometimes we have people saying, "Oh, are you trying to be the Patagonia of Australia?" And obviously that'd be great, but we actually see ourselves as taking a little bit of a different position in the outdoor market. Most traditional outdoor brands, if for example you look at their marketing like, as much as I actually love the extremes, but they're marketing the extremes. It's the guy like hanging off the side of a cliff with one arm, or the ice axe at the top of the summit. Whereas at Zarali, we think there's a massive opportunity just with everyday people, for example, Australians who just love to get outside with their friends, with their mates on the weekends, whether it's camping down the coast, hiking. And we really see Zorali as a guide for that consumer to take, whether it's their first steps into the outdoors or, they're like wanting to integrate nature more into their lifestyle, but they might feel a bit overwhelmed going into like a traditional hiking store. And, I think we recognize that not everyone's grown up like Elise and I in the outdoors, camping, hiking, doing all the things that we love. There's so many people who are discovering the outdoors for the first time in their 20s, in their 30s, even in their 40s. We've even had customers like going camping for the first time, well beyond that in their 50s, and taking their family, which I think is awesome. And one thing that you'll notice in a lot of our language, and especially a lot of our product descriptions on our website, if you just go look at a technical item like a tent, we really try to make it as welcoming and approachable as possible, because we know the outdoor experience can be quite technical and there can be a lot of jargon. And I think that's where we've had a lot of our success, is people coming across Zarali and finding it really welcoming, really approaching, and like literally being their guide as they take their first steps into the outdoors, which is really cool. So we see ourselves as positioning ourselves a bit different to those traditional outdoor brands. And as we continue to expand our range, we're going to continue to dive deeper into more and more technical items. We've actually got hiking bags on the way, like technical hiking bags, which are looking great. But again, we're going to have that in mind of that customer who's might be going on their hiking trip for their first time, and they're not going to go and invest like big money with some of those more specialized higher end outdoor brands.
Yeah, super interesting. I'm sure you could spend a lot more time on that and your positioning, but yeah, we'll try and save it for another time. Anonymous attendee has asked, keen to know your average profit margin across your product range. So over to you.
Great question. So for Zarali, as we're an outdoor brand, and as we're an online brand, we need to factor in costs like customer acquisition, which is probably the biggest cost for an online brand. So our product development team across the board will try to ensure that the landed cost of a product will be 70% gross profit margin or higher. The higher, obviously, the better for the business, and that helps us obviously have margin to do the things like the tree planting and offsetting all our carbon use, and all of that's really factored into that margin. So anywhere between 70 to 85, 90 would be like the goal for us. But our average margin is about 75%.
Still pretty impressive. But yeah, awesome goal to have. Awesome goal. Great. And Steph here has asked, is an ethical supply chain important to you, such as fair pay, good working conditions for workers, etc.?
Yeah, great question, Steph. Yeah, so this is like a really big part of Zarali. Is, I think you might have noticed in that presentation, like a lot of faces. We're really big on people connection. So currently all of our products are made internationally by our partners who abide by our strict code of conduct. And currently all of our partners are located in China. So Elise and I have actually visited all our suppliers before COVID, which we were really blessed to be able to fit that in before COVID, because we only launched about 6 months before COVID. So we've got a really strong relationship with all our suppliers. We check in regularly, daily really, and even do video calls as well to keep that face-to-face connection. And we're looking forward to getting back there to visit them when we can. And our code of conduct, which you can actually find on our website, it really ensures that all people in our supply chain are treated well, paid properly, and have a safe spot to work. And we're proud to say that every partner in our supply chain is as passionate about quality and environmental impact as we are. And they all have best practice certifications. One question that we often get asked is like, why can't you manufacture in Australia? Which is a great question. It's like definitely a dream of ours to be able to do our whole range here. Due to the complexity of a lot of our items and the scale as well of our orders, it is very hard to get our core products made in Australia, things like tents, backpacks at the scale that we're producing them. Last winter, we did manufacture beanies in Melbourne, which was a really cool story and experience that we were able to do. We've also looked into bringing our t-shirts into Melbourne, and we'll continue to look at that as options open up for us.
Yeah, awesome. Somebody here has asked us 4 questions in one slot, so I'm going to fire away and we'll get through them. So how much capital has been raised to date?
Yep. So great question. So our first raise, we raised $300,000, which was our max target. And since that raise, we've raised $250,000 in additional capital from existing shareholders who wanted to like further their investment in Zarali.
Yeah, awesome. Where are your products manufactured? You just mentioned in China. So we've covered that one off. How will the funding be used in this round? The use of funds table in the offer document will break this down, but and Cam, I know you covered this a little bit in the presentation, but if there's anything else that you want to add to this?
Yeah, sure. So from probably like biggest allocation to lease, range expansion. So we're expanding our range and we've already kind of got that in the works, but we're going to put that capital into making that happen. So we're expanding our product range with the consciously designed gear to get the world outside. Second allocation will be increasing inventory purchases of our core range, so styles that are already in on our website. So we'll be increasing those orders in order to capitalize on our ever-increasing demand and achieve greater profit margins due to increased manufacturing quantities. So one thing that if you've followed the brand for a while, you might notice we have a lot of periods where our products are out of stock, and that's simply due to the popularity of the product, which is a great problem to have, but we really want to get to a stage where we're not having these long stock out periods, especially across like our popular items like tents and backpacks. And we have this really popular pant called Venture Pants, and they're like never ever in stock. We're always selling them on pre-order, and then by the time the stock arrives, the pre-order sold the entire stock, and then it's kind of this like continual cycle. So that's what we want to really use the funds for as well. A little bit on marketing and advertising in order to expand the business and reach new markets of future fans in line with that global expansion. And the rest would just make up other working capital, including global freight and warehousing for increased imports and wages.
Yeah, fantastic. And the question here as well, what was the last financial year profit? I know that you answered another question, which was probably after this one was asked, before, that you weren't profitable in the last financial year. But yeah, perhaps, we'll move on to the next question, actually, just because we've covered that one. Elliot here from Melbourne. Hi, Elliot. What do you see as the principal risks to the business? Good question.
Yeah, great question. Probably the biggest principal risk for us as a very fastly growing brand is cash flow, which this raise will really help with that. So currently our growth is really dictating our cash needs. So what I mean by that is, for example, in December, we launched a range of camp chairs. We thought we'd purchase about 6 months worth of stock. It sold out before it arrived,
Yep.
like the venture pans. So we straight away were like, oh my goodness, these are so popular. We need to order more. We set budgets based on our cash flow ahead of time. And so our December budget for what we could spend on stock had already been well allocated. And then we're placing a massive order of camp chairs because there's so much demand there. So that's like that's been like quite a big focus of ours is managing that cash flow. And one of the reasons why we're doing this raise is to boost our cash flow so we can capitalize on that demand without really straining things. Another big, I guess, risk would be customer acquisition. Being an online brand, the way that people come across Zarali largely is through online advertising. The online advertising space is like rapidly changing, and traditionally the cost to advertise online rises. So that's always a risk that will just continue to rise, and we'll have to find better alternative channels to acquire our customers. But that's also why we place such a strong focus on our brand and our community, so we don't have to rely as heavily on those channels as your traditional e-commerce brand.
Yeah, fantastic. And Clem here has asked, what countries will be targeted in international growth? You touched on this a little bit. And then the second part, and does that include setting up 3PL in each country?
Yeah, great question. Definitely the plans to set up a 3PL overseas is one that we've explored and are continuing to explore. We want to get a bit more greater scale into, so the first location would be the United States, that we would look to put our own third-party logistics set up there. So we want to get achieve a bit more scale from our warehouse here in Australia. We use DHL Express. It arrives under a week. It's incredible. We've got really good rates with DHL because of our volume. So it's still quite profitable for us to send into the States. The reason why we'd want to do that is more from customer experience with things like returns. We don't really have a set location there at the moment. We are actually sending a lot of our returns to one of our team's houses in Washington State. And then like she's kind of processing them from there, which is obviously a pretty casual solution. So we're wanting to set up a 3PL there when we can to just really improve that customer experience, improve the time that it takes for the customer to get the goods, and also reduce the cost of the shipping. But we're going to work on getting a bit more scale before we look to do that, and then we'll identify our top selling products into the United States and then send those there, and then other countries would follow.
Yeah, awesome. Thomas's question below is literally what you've covered just now, and also with Zorali Japan. So Thomas's question regarding expansion into the global market: are your communities based domestically, or are they established? Are there established Zarali community members in the US? Unless you want to elaborate on this, I know that you also mentioned a third party that you're also looking to sell your products under, but if there's anything else that you wanted to add in terms of
great question
plan, that'd be great.
So in the US we have quite a strong community. So one of our team members is American. She is currently based in the States. She's amazing. And she, through, I guess, her network and just a lot of similar to the Japan story, we have a lot of really strong customers in the States that have kind of got their friends on board. Zarali, like a really grassroots kind of feeling that it's still quite small scale, but we're looking to like expand on that, and through those key people that we know and interact with over there. And we're launching on Huckberry, so we're essentially using their community to introduce Zorali to the United States, which is a really big milestone for us. Huckberry is like a really curated men's outdoor and adventure site. So to get recognized by Huckberry, and they've placed quite a large order, is really cool, and will do wonders for Zarali in terms of reputation and growth in the United States. And then Japan, we've got a really cool community there, spreading the Zarali love already.
Yeah, awesome, fantastic. Anonymous question here: what types of products are you expecting to launch this year?
Great question.
Great.
So I touched a bit on it earlier. We've got hiking bags coming, which are looking amazing. I thought I'd maybe show some. I'll 2 seconds. Here's a little sneak peek. So we got a small little day hike bag and an overnight hike kind of bag here. They're all still in development, but there's a little sneak preview. We're expanding our products more into hiking, sleeping bags. We're actually, a lot of our customers are really into bike packing, which is a really cool activity. That's a great growing trend. It's basically hiking, but on your bike.
Yeah.
So we've got a bike packing range coming in about August, I believe. But basically we want to grow to a stage where we can service the entire outdoor lifestyle and be the #1 choice for Australians who love to get outside. And I think the other thing that you'll really notice a lot with our products is there's a strong focus on design, and just our personal experience is we find a lot of products in the outdoor space aren't the most nice looking or flattering kind of products. And we place a big emphasis on making stuff that stands the test of time, but also looks really great. And I think that's also, has definitely been a factor in our success so far. We get a lot of orders from like companies in the city, and like clearly people aren't all wearing it on trails, but they're also wearing it, I guess, because of the lifestyle that it represents, but also because they like the look of the products.
Yeah, awesome. Fantastic. Cassandra here has asked if the trees are being looked after being planted. I sure hope they are, and I'm sure you do too, Cam.
Yeah, so at our tree planting site in Kenya, there's a really awesome American couple there who are leading that program, and they have a great approach to the entire life cycle of that of the project, where they actually employ people from the local communities. So it's like a local pastoral community where ours is located. They train them up from planting the seeds to taking care of it in the earliest stages, and they don't just like kind of plant it and run. There's a full program on ensuring those seedlings are nurtured and turn into strong, capable, growing forests. So
awesome. Fantastic. And Sally's asked if you would run tree planting events locally.
Yeah, awesome question. Yeah, it's definitely something we'd like to do. We actually partnered with an outdoor publication called We Are Explorers last year. They did an event in the Snowies, and we partnered with them and a beer brand, Capital Brewing, to plant trees. And it got a little bit disrupted because of COVID, but they had a tree planting day, and that was really cool. And it's definitely something that we'd love to do more in future as we expand on our meetups and events.
Yeah, awesome, fantastic. And Sarah here has asked, what is the size of the team now, and what hires do you intend to make this year?
Yeah, great question. Sorry, what was the first part?
What's the size of your team right now?
Yeah. So we've got, our team's pretty small. Myself, my wife Elise, Jake, who's our product designer, Candy, who is our production manager. She takes care of everything from tech packing the wonderful designs Elise and Jake dream up, and then communicating that with the supplier and keep making sure the quality and everything is up to the Zorali standard through the entire process. Then we've got Carly, who's based in the United States, who's like head of our community and just is an all-round wizard with everything Zarali. And then we have our customer service manager, Jay. And then we work with a third-party logistics company who are actually really good friends of ours in Melbourne. So we send all of our orders from that warehouse in Dandenong, which is really great because it enables us to focus on growing the brand and not doing something that I'm not great at, which is handling product.
Yeah, it's always good to focus on your strengths in a small business. That's awesome to hear. Charles here has asked a question: when are you expecting to see a return on our investment? Of course, you've already covered this in a bit of detail. If you want to elaborate or add to anything, now is a good time.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, obviously we can't give you a set timeline or anything like that. I wish I could predict the future, but I can't. But I think our real like next milestone, our current annual run rate revenue wise is $3 million. Our next real milestone for the business in growing our revenue would be to 8 figures. So hitting like $1 million months and getting over $10 million a year in revenue. And I think at that stage, we would really like to entertain the option of getting a larger company on, like I talked about previously, purely because we like really believe in focusing on your strengths, and we feel like we can, with our current team, we feel like all that's really required to get to that next milestone for Zarali is increased resources, which is the purpose of this raise. And we're really confident we can get to that level. Beyond that level is probably a bit more of a like going 10 to 50 million is going to require a whole different team and skill set, which we probably, to be honest, like would enjoy more focusing on just continuing to grow the brand rather than to continuing like growing a large business. So that's when we'd really look at getting a larger company that we've had multiple already reach out, and we're kind of keeping those doors open. They know we're growing fast. They know we're like really capable of getting it to kind of that next stage. And we've been really clear that we want to continue that relationship with them so that when the time's right, we could look at doing that. And that would obviously provide a great exit point for shareholders.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think that while we're kind of covering this, you've got another question about what's your investment goal for this crowdfunding round. I think in terms of maybe what your proposed kind of maximum target is, and then what the minimum investment amount is, because I've seen a couple of questions there. And just in terms of getting to everybody's questions, we will do our very best to try and get through them. I'm conscious that we're coming up to 5 minutes towards the scheduled end, and I wanted to highlight that this session is being recorded. We will send it around to everyone. We will stay on and get through everyone's questions here. Yeah, we'll send that around to everybody who may have to shoot off at 6:30. So yeah, over to you, Cam. Sorry.
Yeah, so we're looking to raise our max target. We're looking to raise up to $1 million with this current raise. And we really believe that's going to give us enough runway to get to those milestones that we're looking to achieve. And the minimum amount that you can invest is $200. So like everything at Zarali, we like to keep it really welcoming and accessible. So we decided to set quite a low bar.
Yeah, fantastic. Another question here: do you have a goal of expanding to other markets in the longer term? I think we've covered this in as much detail as we can in this session, so we'll just move on to the next question. What are the biggest challenges Serali is facing in the next 24 months? I feel like we've covered quite a bit of this, but if there's anything that you feel you haven't touched on, yeah, now's probably the best time to do so.
Yeah, good question. I think the biggest challenge that I would foresee in the next 24 months is if we're able to reach those milestones that we think we're really confident in achieving is finding the structure around team and building that infrastructure to keep scaling at that rate, which again is why we would be interested in getting a partner on board to help us grow beyond that stage. But yeah, we're like, I guess the reason why I say that would be our biggest challenge is because we have such a cool team at the moment, and we're also like-minded, and it's just like such a good vibe working for Zarali. And we know with the current size of team that we have, we can scale well beyond where we are. And I think we're thinking like, this team's not going to be this awesome forever. Like you can't, like, as you involve more and more people, things get more complex. So that's obviously going to be a challenge for us, is like, we feel like we've been really blessed with so many great people. Everyone on our team has been on our team for over a year and a half now. We don't have any like turnover. Like it's just a really great culture in here. So it'd probably be more on continuing to grow that culture as we scale.
Yeah, 100%. Super interesting, actually. And you've got a question here. In fact, actually, there was one question over on the side in the chat who asked about product expansion. You've touched on product expansion and what you're looking to do, but they also asked if you have any plans to become a B Corp. I know there's good ones here, so yeah, over to you, Cam.
Yeah, so we're actually in the process of becoming a B Corp. So we've submitted our application. I have a meeting with them on Friday to go through one of the final like evaluation processes. Is a very long process. We started about 6 months ago, I think, the application. So we do expect to be B Corp certified by the second half of this year.
Yeah, fantastic. And a question here, why crowdfunding rather than traditional equity markets?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so I think for us, Zarali's been community-led since day one. We launched from the crowdfund, and we've seen how much strength that brought to Zarali, like being able to launch from day one with 550 people who really wanted to see it succeed was an incredible strength for us in the early days. And we obviously have such a strong focus on community, and we have such a strong community. We thought, why not open this back up to our current community and fans, and get them like more involved in the Zorali journey, and actually invite them to have ownership in that. And I think, although we are big on customer acquisition online through advertising and things like that, we still really believe in word of mouth. And there's no greater word of mouth than someone who's invested into your company and is like really believes in it. So we see it as a great opportunity, not just to get the funds that we require, but to also strengthen that existing community and relationship that we have, and to give that great word of mouth and organic reach for Zarali.
100%. Yeah, pleased to hear it. And really such a community-led company. It's I don't think you'd want to do it any other way. When it comes to, Grace here has asked a great question. Global expansion means an increase of fossil fuels for production and shipping. Are you confident you'll be able to maintain your climate neutral status?
Yeah, great question. Yes, because with that increase in global expansion, we're only going to be doing that in line with our increase in revenue. So the increase in revenue is going to increase our overall margin, which will have more opportunity to invest into the carbon credits that we currently invest in with climate neutral. The other thing that we do with climate neutral, which is really cool, is we actually work with them to reduce our current footprint. So it's not just like it's not just doing it's not just about offsetting what your current output is. It's all about reducing as well. So and we work really closely with that on things like how can we one of our biggest emissions is obviously global freight. So we look at how can we consolidate a lot of our shipments from our suppliers, so we're sending less stuff from our suppliers to Australia, and we're like consolidating those shipments and being a lot more efficient which will also help our overall profit, but will also be better for the planet as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. And Tony here says there's no doubt that the market is saturated with established and cheap brands like Kathmandu, Macpac, Decathlon, etc. How do you plan to differentiate from them and make the brand stand out on its own?
Yeah.
I know you've covered a little bit of this, but
yeah. I might touch further on our positioning, which is what I was talking about earlier. Is we have a bit of a different positioning as a lot of those brands, and we would even in-house see ourselves as more of a sustainable wellness brand that's connecting people with nature and a sustainable outdoor lifestyle. We don't just see it like as purely like outdoor product and like that's the end goal. But what we would love to be able to do to really differentiate ourselves in future is one of our goals, dreams, milestones is to have our own bricks and mortar store or stores. But we would really like to do it in like anything that we do at Zarali, like a really unique and creative way. So think walking into a store that looks like a shack that you'd come across in the mountains, and displaying the product really beautifully and the story. And one thing that we're really focused on here at Zarali is what can we do that our competitors can't do? And that drives a lot of our decision making, a lot of what we do when we're interacting with our customers, and that's something that like is going to, as we continue to scale and as we continue to have more time to focus more on the brand, is going to increase that difference between Zarali and the other outdoor brands in the market.
Yeah, fantastic. And yeah, we've just conscious that we've gone over 6:30 at this point in time. We've still got 39 open questions, so we'll do our very best. They're basically at where they started, so we'll do our very best to get through these. But just in terms of one question which I've seen here, and I think for anybody who does need to drop off, one of the questions was how much interest have you received for this crowdfunding round? In terms of the expressions of interest, they've been really significant. And even from the data that we're seeing, it does look like that $1 million is very much so possible in the EOI round. But yeah, Cam, I know that you've been closer to this and you personally know a lot of the individuals who are expressing interest. So
so we've been blown away by the interest so far. We've had over 800 expressions of interest. We only launched that last week. So I guess we're quite confident in the community that we have. We decided to just have a short expression of interest period. So yeah, we've already had over 800 expressions of interest. I've been able to connect with a lot of them personally, which has been really great. And yeah, we're really excited to see the response once the offer opens next week.
Yeah, awesome. Cassandra here is asked again, are the trees native that you're planting?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so the tree planting, so it's actually the place where they're planted is called the Great Rift Valley in Kenya, which is a beautiful area. I've been there myself. And Eden Projects partners with the local communities to plant a diverse range of local species in the heavily deforested areas. And that helps kickstart the natural regeneration of the Afro-Montane forest. I think I said that correctly in Kenyan. So yeah, it's all local.
Yeah, awesome. Fantastic. And another question below, can you tell us about your current experience with supply chains? Interested to hear if your supply chain logistic issues are also impacting your team, and if so, how are you dealing with it? Because yeah, I know that this is probably a little bit past, but you'll be much closer to this, so
yeah. No, great question. Yeah, so a lot of brands have had a lot of supply chain issues the past 2 years with COVID and everything going on. We've been pretty blessed to not be affected too greatly. Like the biggest disruption we've had is just shipping delays from our suppliers to Australia due to the increase in in like the increased demand in shipment space. So that's increased freight cost. But in terms of actual suppliers, we've been, pretty blessed to like not really be too affected. A few delays here and there, but that's about it. I think in our first probably year and a half, we were still setting up systems to ensure that our products like were being manufactured on time. That's something that Candy on our team has really implemented to ensure that, for example, I think our first few summers over Christmas, we like didn't have Christmas or summer kind of stock. So it did, like anything, it took a bit of time to like put those systems in place. But more recently, the last 18 months, we've been really strong with our suppliers, and things are really ran on time. And the biggest hiccups being on the global freight side of things.
Yeah, understood. And Kyle here has asked a couple of questions below about your products. With the scheduled product releases, are you looking to move into any category of product that you don't currently hold? And do you have an idea of the percentage of faulty gear or clothing? In a sense, can you talk to the general quality of the products and its ability to uphold its intended purpose?
So so to answer the first part of that question, so some of the new categories that we're going into that is currently in development are sleeping bags, hiking bags, bike packing, and with the raise, we'll continue to go deeper into expanding our outdoor categories that we offer. And the second part of your question, I don't have an exact figure on percentage of faulty product. It would be very, very low, definitely less than 1%. But what we do offer is what we call our Steadfast Guarantee, which supports every item's natural life. And we're really resolute in that promise, and we stand by everything that we make with that guarantee. And it means that any defect in materials or workmanship across the reasonable lifetime of a product is on Zarali. We'll either fix it or replace it. And even though it doesn't cause damage caused by neglect or improper use, we're always on hand to nurse it back into life if necessary.
Yeah, fantastic. And Murray here has asked a question, is there a minimum or maximum investment that best suits Zerali's current position? Of course, the maximum investment amount in this round is $1 million. I'm sure that you could probably answer this from a means of what you minimally need to kind of viably run the company moving forward, and then what you could do with millions of dollars if you had them. But I'll hand over to you to answer.
Yeah, great question. So the minimum we're looking to raise is 300K, which was our max on our last offer. So this would definitely help boost our cash flow and allow us to still dive into some of those new categories that I've just mentioned, but it would probably not allow us to achieve our entire goals in terms of expanding our product range and expanding more globally. So the max that we're looking, as mentioned earlier, is $1 million, and we believe that's going to give us a really good opportunity in the next 18 to 24 months to really achieve our growth goals, expand our product range, capitalize on our increasing demand, and expand more globally.
Yeah, fantastic. And we've got a question here. First time here. What return did investors in your first crowdfund receive? I touched on this a little bit earlier from a perspective of the fact that these are shares in a private company, so you can't just easily go and trade and sell them. And the fact that obviously the funds were used to grow the business, and you've grown significantly. So the first time investors still own shares in Zarali. And what they will be able to do is factor how much those shares are currently worth, but those shares, they still remain illiquid. So in terms of, like I've mentioned here, really, when it does come to investing, it really, you want to consider these funds that you don't need to access for a lengthy period of time. And yeah, when it comes to those first round investors, they are in it for the long run. So yeah, anything else you wanted to add, Cam?
Yeah. yeah, I think you covered it all really, but yeah, I think it's been a really cool experience for us. Like doing the crowdfund at the start, I'll be honest, I was nervous. We were starting a brand new company. People were like, you know, that I hadn't met were like believing in us. We literally didn't have a website when we launched our first equity crowdfund campaign. It was actually wild what we were able to achieve, which I guess was largely due to my previous experience and a lot of people probably believing in me and the team that we were building around myself based on that previous experience. But it's been really cool being able to connect with our shareholders since. And, yeah, it's been like I mentioned earlier, we've had a number of our shareholders wanting to reinvest further and deeper their investment, which a number have done. And yeah, and we've just had also a lot of fun meeting a lot of our shareholders in real life. Often it can be, they feel, yeah, like the other week at the beach, I had a guy from Torquay, who knows might be on this call, really nice dude. And he invested in Zarali, and he was just had his Zarali sticker on his car, and he was telling me how he tells everyone about Zarali. And yeah, it was really cool being able
That's awesome. That's awesome.
The many shareholders that we do have.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. And Jason here has asked the question, how do you support the 10 trees product claim? It's epic. And how do you track it from the website to counter match the amount of trees planted? Love your work. I can imagine they probably see the orders coming through thinking, we've got a lot of trees to plant. So,
yeah, great question. So we have a monthly, so at the end of every month, we look at, and we have there is like a back end to that tree counter. So it is telling us how many products have been sold, therefore how many trees need to get planted. And then we are sending that donation direct to Eden Projects. And then that goes direct to the project in Kenya. And then it's obviously not like a direct live tree plant from the moment the product is purchased, but that money is directly invested into the amount of trees that we've donated towards. And then we get a quarterly report from Eden Projects with the current projects. We get photos, drone videos, which are really cool to see, and the stats around like how much we've donated, how much they've planted, if they're behind on the schedule, and their plans to catch up, which is
awesome.
Yeah.
Kyle here has asked, do you intend to, or are you currently stocking in any bricks and mortar stores in Australia?
Yeah, great question. Not really. And say not really because we are stocking in a few stores. They're mainly our friends. And there's a few on the Sunshine Coast that we got friends with really cool stores up there. So we do it for them. But because, like I've mentioned earlier, our demand has been so high, pretty much since day one, it's been really hard to be able to allocate stock to wholesalers. And obviously we're with direct to consumer, we get the full margin. So it makes more sense for our business at this stage to sell direct and not through stocking through wholesale. It is something that we would look into in future once we are like looking to get further scale in our revenue. And if we had the opportunity to, like with this opportunity that we have in the States with Huckberry, they've come to us and they've placed a really large order like 6 months ahead of time. So it's given us time to like work with our suppliers to ensure that we're going to have the stock to supply Huckberry. It's not just coming from our online store stock, because that would obviously eat into our margins and our sales that were already going to get sold to our current customers. So something we'll look into more as we grow, but we're more focused on direct to consumer at this stage.
100%. And I think there's another question here which complements that so well. Are you planning to have Zorali stores down the track? Probably not right now, but probably a consideration.
Great question. Yeah, I think like one day, yeah, we'd dream to have our own bricks and mortar stores. We like doing things differently, and that's really in our DNA. So I think it'd be really cool for us to have the opportunity to do that in future, especially in some key locations in Australia, whether that's through more like a pop-up to start with or a more permanent location. We would love to be able to give our customers and new Zorali fans the opportunity to physically touch and experience the product in person. But in the meantime, that's why we are really keen to do more meetups and in-person events to take our online presence offline.
Yeah, awesome. James here has said Huckberry is a very good distributor. So James is tick of approval. Will Zarali aim to work with some of their brands to form collaborations? Awesome to hear. I'm sure that's definitely on your mind.
I need to bring James into the team because I
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. We're really big on collaborations, and so it's definitely something we should look into. I haven't looked into that yet, but that's definitely something that would be a great idea to do. And yeah, we really believe in collaborations. We're currently exploring a collaboration with a really cool coffee brand in Melbourne, which I'm hoping will come to life sometime. That's a really cool collaboration we're working on, but definitely would be keen to look at some of the US brands and collaborate there in order to further increase our brand awareness.
Fantastic. And James is happy to join the team, by the way. He's just edit us. Awesome. So Craig here has asked, how do you ensure that your supply chain is ethical, transparent, and not subjecting persons to modern slavery? Do you have any individual third-party audits or certification of your supply chain?
Yep. Yeah, great question. Yeah, so obviously before we manufacture with a supplier, they have to agree to our code of conduct, which is available on our website. And that is something that we check in regularly. All of our suppliers have accredited third-party certifications, and we check in quite regularly as a part of, I guess, even just the process that we're doing with B Corp at the moment, to ensure that those certificates are getting updated and they are being audited by a individual third party, and those audits are coming to Zarali as well.
Yeah, awesome, fantastic. And Clem here has said, so is your international expansion plans via distributors or still direct to market? And if direct, will any local websites be set up to facilitate this?
Yeah, great question, Clem. So currently our plan is to go direct, and we're going to, until we get enough scale, we're just going to do it through our single Shopify store, which we have set up here in Australia. What we currently do is we actually have a bit of a buffer on US orders because we offer free global shipping over $100. So what we do is we bump up the exchange rate slightly. So don't tell any of your US friends, but it basically helps us cover the shipping costs. And the other thing is we're not paying GST on those international sales. So that helps as well as an extra 10% of revenue. But that's what we're doing currently to make the US a viable solution. Once we get enough scale and we look to set up our own 3PL there, we will create a second Shopify store, which would obviously be tailored to the US and then follow suit with other regions. The distributor model is interesting to us in countries where we probably wouldn't place much focus. Like I mentioned, we signed a distribution deal with a distributor in Taiwan. We had a small percentage of our, very small percentage of our sales going to Taiwan. But it wasn't really something we'd ever noticed, Taiwan's like a cool opportunity. So that really made sense to us working with the distributor there because they're able to obviously market for us and put a lot of time and energy into growing Zarali in Taiwan. And we would, continue to look to do that in other key locations where we don't have the time or focus or resource to really focus on growing that region.
Awesome. And we've had a question here from Kashav who said, great great traction. Cam, are the clothing items environmentally friendly? I know you do a lot. Well, this is not in the question, but yeah, I know you do a lot, but yeah, are they?
Yeah, great question. So pretty much anything that you'll see on our Zarali website in terms of apparel is either or uses either organic fibers or recycled fibers. So for example, this t-shirt actually plants 100 trees. Cool fact, it's called the 100 tree tee. But yeah, this is organic cotton. All of our more technical items that like for example, rain jackets, they're all using recycled materials. And that's like pretty much a non-negotiable for us when we're working with our suppliers. The first thing that we do is we show them like our vision for the product and the materials that we need to create it in the most sustainable way possible. And then they go out and they find the materials for us first. If they can't find the materials, we don't move ahead. That's like, yeah, that's it. Having that as a really strong value in our design team makes it really easy because everyone just knows whether using an organic fiber or a recycled fiber, if the organic fiber isn't a viable option for something that say needs like rain repellent. So yeah, great question though.
Yeah, fantastic. Craig here has asked a question, and I've seen a couple down in the list as well. Can the shareholding be diluted for future raising capital? Yes, it absolutely can. What's important to note is that no one has anti-dilution preferences. So when the company is raising more funds, everyone is diluted at an equal distribution of the amount of shares that they own to make way for new shareholders. So yeah, in accordance with the last round, of course, those shareholders have been diluted a little bit, but they will still be reflected, and we can still help anyone who is invested in the first round to understand exactly how much their shares are worth at this point in time. Honestly, it is a bit more straightforward than it seems, but initially when you're trying to get your head around it, yeah, it does seem all a little bit confusing, but we're happy to help with anybody's particular case.
And I'll just add to that and saying the only times that we would look to bring on further investment shareholders and dilute the current shareholding is if it's going to increase everyone's value. So it's yeah, that's like a big non-negotiable for us and really a no-brainer.
Yeah, awesome. And Marcus here has asked, where do you see Zarali in 5 years' time? I know you've covered quite a lot about the future. Anything else that you wanted to add?
Yeah, great question. Our like big high-level dreams for Zarali is to grow it to a size where it becomes much more than an outdoor gear and apparel brand. We see a future where we have things like nature retreats and things that people can like physically go and experience. And that's definitely like part of our vision. We really want to become the leader for providing people with sustainable outdoor apparel, and really we want people, when they think of like outdoor brands that are really focused on the well-being side of getting outside, we want Zarali to be what they think of. And I think we're like doing a really good job like focusing in on that path and specifically that narrative. And that's where we really want to like expand globally and become a recognized brand in those key target locations that we've got our sights on.
Yeah, fantastic. And you've got a couple of questions here about supply chain and product range. So how is Zarali diversifying its supply chain? Interesting.
Yeah, great question. So yeah, this is something we've done intentionally from like a risk mitigation sense, is to ensure that we have multiple suppliers on hand at any time that can make our product, just in case anything happens with anything that could impact the relationship with the supplier. So we actually, in the past, we've manufactured in Sri Lanka. So we've got connections there. Currently, we manufacture with about 5 different suppliers across our apparel, gear, headwear, socks, backpacks. We have different suppliers with different strengths in different areas, and we also have, I guess the biggest one is our apparel in terms of investment, and we have multiple suppliers that can make all our core range that we've like either worked with in the past or sampled with, and the same with our gear backpacks. We've got multiple suppliers who can make our best-selling Escapade backpack and like ready to go at any given time. So that's a great question, and we're constantly like looking at our supplier mix and constantly chatting with new suppliers, and which has been really great. Our biggest supplier currently has an office in Melbourne, which is incredible because we can literally just head down the road if we have any issues and we need to like meet with their team. And that's been a really great relationship that we've been able to build across the last 12 months.
Unmuted. Anthony, thanks very much for your question here. Asking how diverse are you aiming to make that product range, which you've kind of touched on a little bit. Will you be hitting markets such as alpine, snow related outdoor activities, and others in your roots such as surfing? Of course.
Yeah, great question. I've had to intentionally stay out of the surfing side of things because my even though I guess it's my background, it was probably my strength. I've really enjoyed like just focusing on outdoor, but everyone does ask us. My previous business, we sold wetsuits and they were really popular. Everyone's asking, where's the Zorali wetsuits? When are they coming back? So maybe one day. I think it would be way down the list of our current focus. But in terms of how diverse we want to go with the offering, we definitely want to dive deeper into things like snow and alpine conditions. It's not in our current area of focus. We're more looking at products that have more like year-round use, because it just makes a bit more sense business-wise for us right now. But definitely as we continue to scale and have the increased capabilities within our structure to invest deeper into like further growing categories, we would definitely be looking at those areas as well. We actually have some customers currently from Switzerland who are like crazy skiers, and they're doing a documentary currently, and they're taking our Highlands tent on the trip with them. One of the other things that we actually are making is an ultralight hiking tent. Our current tent is like we hike multiple day hikes with it, and it's quite good for what we kind of need to use it for. But we are actually developing an ultralight hiking tent, which is about 1.5 kilos for the more extreme Zarali user, which is we're excited to launch that later this year.
Yeah, fantastic. And you've got a question here. You mentioned supply chain is heavily involved with China. Do the current and likely future geopolitical tensions between Australia and China raise any risks for the company's future, particularly concerning your profit margins? When would you need to consider producing elsewhere? Yeah,
great question. That's why we've even more recently, I mentioned in the past, we manufactured in Sri Lanka. Even more recently, we've been in touch with Sri Lanka, has some really great suppliers, and we loved being able to work there. China, for us, had a bit more capability across a lot of our styles. Sri Lanka does have some incredible manufacturers for the larger brands like Patagonia, and we've actually been in contact with a lot of those suppliers that have reached out to Zarali, and we're probably almost at a stage where our core styles could go to Sri Lanka if need be, and that's something we'll definitely look at. We've also looked at other regions in case something like you mentioned happen. We've also explored bringing out our t-shirts to Melbourne. We already make our beanies in Melbourne. We know we can get quite a lot of our apparel done here. It's probably more the gear side of things. We are diversifying that mix and ensuring that if the unimaginable, or maybe to some people imaginable, happens, we're able to quickly shift. And I guess that's also the beauty of being quite nimble in the team and brand that we are, is we're able to quickly shift and move and change plans. And yeah, so great question.
Yeah, interesting. So we've got another question here. Do you expect any future capital raising that would dilute any shares that we purchase?
Yeah, not in our current plans. I'd say no. Obviously, things can always change. Where if we're able to reach our max target, we believe that's going to be able to give Zarali enough runway to get to a significant size where we're able to just continue to grow off our profits, and that's really our goal. If we don't hit our max target, potentially, I'm confident we're going to be able to hit our max target. But if we didn't, I think it might be an option that we look at if we're needing to get some more capital in the door to help us to achieve the growth plans that we do have.
Yeah, great. Yeah, great. And got a question here. Do you consider end of life when designing your products?
Yes. Yeah. So especially across a lot of our apparel, this is a really big focus. We try to make our gear so that literally can get passed down to generations. But across all of our apparel, everything is, like I mentioned before, is a lot of our softer kind of goods is organic. We even look at how items can break down in terms of labels and thread that is being used. And this is something that we are really focused on moving forward. Is one of our goals is to be able to close that loop and ensure that our products can keep going round and round in, I guess, the cycle of life. And yeah, it's a fun area that we've really enjoyed diving into and looking to go deeper in as we continue to scale and expand our range and dive deeper into some of the sustainable materials that we use across our range.
Yeah, you're considering so much. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to a lot of the other fashion brands out there, apparel brands, they for years did not consider this.
Even our Elise is my wife. Elise looks after a lot of this area. She's amazing at even packaging that's being used. She doesn't just stop at the compostable packaging. She's looking into, do people actually use compostable packaging in the right way? Because a lot of people just put in the recycling bin, which is not the way to use compostable. So we even question using things like that are seen as a good solution. We're actually a part of a group of brands which have signed a sustainable movement pledge through Prana, which is a US brand, and it's all around packaging at the moment. So Elise and Carly on our team have calls with Prana and a few of these other brands that are in this group around best use for packaging and best practices. So from product, but also packaging, it's such a big focus for us.
That's so insightful and so great to hear. I mean, you're considering absolutely everything, basically. And the next question below, and we are getting through these. Thank you ever so much to the people who are still here, still listening to these questions being answered. We really appreciate you for staying on. So have you addressed and understood all the reasons why you did not make a profit in the first couple of years? Come on, Cam, you're not making a profit in the first couple of years. It's actually a really good question. When it does come to businesses and growth and profit, traditionally you will find it incredibly hard to focus on growth and profit at the same time. There's a lot on this, and I'm sure that you can dive into this in detail, Cam.
So to put it plainly, we just weren't able to grow our revenue at a rate that exceeded our expenses. So every business has a break-even point. Ours, I guess, we set Zarali up in a way that could grow to the size that we are today, probably almost prematurely compared to most the approach that most brands would take, with our extreme focus on things like sustainability, the tree planting. Like, a lot of businesses look at those things once they've established themselves and are quite a profitable business. They'll look at how can we give back. We wanted to embed those things into Zarali from day one, which took, for example, the sustainability, even like a significant research cost into how we can actually operate our business in the most sustainable way. And then, so basically the first 2 years we weren't at a stage where we were able to grow our revenue at a rate that was faster than our expenses. As you'll see in the offer doc, our December 31 financials shows a small profit for the first 6 months of this financial year, which we're really pleased to report. And at the moment, we're at a stage where we've probably just pushed past that break-even point, and we feel like as we continue to scale, we've got such a great team, and we don't really need to invest too much at our stage in growing that team. So our fixed costs in terms of wages, those things are going to stay relatively stable. And as we continue to scale, we're going to find the biggest increase in margin in the, shrinking of our fixed costs, because for us, selling more product doesn't necessarily mean we need to get more people in here and expand those fixed costs. Well, what we really need is the capital through this raise to be able to invest deeper into more stock across our best-selling styles. And as we expand that range as well, we'll be able to increase our revenue while keeping that fixed cost relatively low and stable, and increase our profit margin. So we're really pleased with where we're at in terms of that currently.
Yeah, fantastic. And what portion of sales are international and domestic is what Sally would like to know.
Sorry, percentage?
So yeah, percentage of sales, international. And
currently Australia is about 92% of our revenue.
Yep.
The 8% really getting broken up between New Zealand, the United States, Canada, the UK, and a few key German countries, and a small segment being Japan in that as well. And clearly the US is such a big growth area for us. And that's, we currently don't advertise to the States. We don't have a strong plan for increasing that size of our business right now, because we have such high demand here in Australia. We've just really focused on Australia. But even so, we have such a strong following and community in the United States, and still send out quite a volume through our shipping partners, DHL, which we were really pleased at the start of this year. They looked at how much growth we had over the last 12 months in terms of international sales, and they actually gave us rates that are way better than what a brand like Zorali should be on, which is really going to help us as we invest in that growth to areas like the United States, to ensure that the shipping component of that is not eating into the profit margin.
Yeah, great. And Mike here has asked, direct-to-consumer businesses must have a major focus and spend on marketing. Do you know what percentage of your revenue you spend on marketing at the moment? A best guess if you don't, etc. kind of percentage.
Yeah, no, great question. I'm like a hawk on our what we call marketing efficiency ratio, which is basically total ad spend versus total revenue. So currently it hovers around anywhere between 25 to 35% on a slower day. So average would be 30%. And we believe that as we continue to go deeper into our stock, we'll be able to have less stock out periods. For example, one thing that increases the cost of acquiring customers is if they're, for example, our hiking pants that are never in stock, landing on that page and there's only a few sizes that they can select from, is obviously going to harm that conversion rate, and therefore increase the cost of acquiring a customer. So we're hoping that as we scale and as we have more ability to hold more stock, that will become more efficient as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've had a question here. You mentioned that you guys had 600% revenue growth in 2021. What's the expected growth for the next financial year?
Yeah, great question. So I mentioned, I think earlier, our current annual run rate is around $3 million. Last financial year, we did $1.2 million. So clearly, we're not going to keep growing at 600% year on year.
Yeah.
But we're still pretty confident in able to grow our revenue at the rate that we currently are, which we're really stoked with our current annual run rate, seeing where we even were 12 months ago. And also the thing that I just touched on earlier, our current revenue is at a much greater level, which increases the profitability of the brand, which is really great too. So we're expecting that as we continue to scale our revenue, that overall net margin will continue to increase as well.
Yeah, great. And Daniel here has asked, with your planned growth, do you see many collaborations with more Australian companies or international countries? God, I can imagine a collaboration with an international country would be incredible. I'm sure the intention there was to ask about international companies, and you guys have, that mindset of really collaborating with as many brands which are aligned with you as possible.
For example, last November, we launched a campaign called Earth Office, which was about getting people and workplaces outside and to working from a place that inspires them. We actually ran that campaign in collaboration with Camplify, which is like, think of the Airbnb version, or the camper van version of Airbnb, sorry, which that was a really great collaboration. I mentioned previously we're in talks at the moment with the Melbourne coffee brand, who have a really cool, renowned name, and we're looking at launching a product with them in collaboration. And yeah, we've had smaller collaborations on things like giveaways and things like that. But as we move forward, like the great question before around potentially using the Huckberry opportunity to collaborate with some international brands, I think is something that would be a great growth objective for Zarali, and something that would be really interested in.
Yeah, great. And we've got another question here. Will you do corporate gear such as the famed Patagucci vests?
We have a vest coming. Give me 2 seconds. This is not so corporate. It's quite fun and colourful. We're launching like a retro range in when's this coming out? In April. And yeah, so if the corporates want to get a bit more funky, we'll have some, this is called the Cozy Camp Vest, but not so corporate, or I don't think it'll be seen on Daniel Andrews anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Cassandra here has asked a question: what would happen to our shares once, if you were to have a company take over, basically, so a larger organization come in and buy? Really, there's a lot in the constitution that can cover what rights you obtain as a shareholder. I do encourage any shareholder who wants to know to go and read the constitution, so they understand their rights as an ordinary shareholder who obtains a vote with each individual share that they have. That's going to be available as soon as the offer is live. Cam, I'll leave you to kind of cover a bit more on this, because of course, being a majority shareholder that you are, you kind of you're the voice for a lot of these shareholders. So
yeah. We've actually mentioned this with a few companies that have like reached out with the goal of bringing on Zarali as a brand that they look to grow and expand. And it hasn't been like an issue with any of those brands. And basically what would happen is it would provide an exit opportunity, which most investors would probably want to take, because if we're getting to that stage, we would have grown and provided great return on that investment. In saying that, if they did want to stay and keep their shares, that option could certainly be discussed at that time. And yeah, and I guess in our vision for if that was to occur, we would still want to stay on as the founders of the brand and still continue to grow the brand in that direction, but specifically see them as that strategic growth partner to help us achieve our vision on a grander scale.
Yeah, definitely. And you've got a question here, and you've had a number of questions on this, and of course you can't predict the timeline, but somebody here has asked, when are you projecting to reach your goal of 8 figures and bring a larger partner on board? We won't see any projections in the offer document purely because of the fact that, of course, projections, they are kind of material statements that can have weight. And of course, nobody can predict the future. Cam's already highlighted that he can't. So I'll leave you to answer this one as best as you can.
Yeah, no, great question. So yeah, like Robin said, we can't obviously give you a exact timeline. We feel like it's quite in our capability to be able to reach 8 figures in annual revenue. We even in November of this previous November, we did a $500,000 month, and which did hurt us a little bit the months to come because we had such low stock, which again, the goal of this raise is to really get to a stage where we have really strong stock levels. And even if we have big months like November last year, it doesn't affect the months to come because we have the system in place to place those purchase orders ahead of time based on our stock demand. And to ensure that like we can have a month like that and continue building on from that month. So for us, like honestly, we feel like the biggest hurdle in the way of that growth is purely stock. Obviously, to be doing those kind of numbers, you need the stock to support that. And that was our main decision behind doing this raise, is to get the funds in the door to significantly increase our stock holdings over the next 12 to 18 months and therefore increase our revenue. So I'm not going to give you a definite answer, I'm sorry, but yeah, we're like very confident in our ability to hit those numbers. We just need to get the business to a stage where we're able to hold that amount of stock and have a great enough profit margin to be at that profitable stage where we can just reinvest the profits back into stock, and it's continually increasing that stock holding and increasing the revenue with that as well.
Yeah, great. And Elliot here has asked, is there any intent to undertake corporate debt in the immediate term?
So we have taken on debt in the past, and we did a few things. We did some revenue-based financing where a company will plug into your online store and they'll fund you based on the data they receive, but then there's a repayment based on daily sales. We found that was a really bad way of financing our business because they took such a large percentage of our revenue as a daily repayment. It was basically our margin, so we didn't have the capacity to then like further invest into our growth because we were paying a really high daily repayment. We have had a more formal loan with a company in Australia called Undertake. They funded us about $240,000. So that's actually currently active. And that just has a much smaller weekly repayment. Yeah, but I think one of the struggles for a early business, which we're beyond now, but in those early days, is it's really hard to get a loan when you don't have your tax returns, and that's kind of where we struggled in those first 12 to 24 months. Was once we started to scale, we just had to like be super frugal, which is like I think is a great problem to have because it's really like embedded it in our culture. It's not like we've been funded by like large banks or things like that, and have just like had money sitting there to invest in things that we don't need to invest in. So it's been actually quite a blessing to not have had the experience of taking on too much corporate debt and just growing the way that we are.
Yeah, great, fantastic. And you've had a question as well asking where the name Zorali has come from.
Yes, great question. So I knew someone would ask this. So Zorali, we really wanted to create a word that was unique and that we could trademark everywhere because it's so unique. And one reason why I wanted to do that was my previous business was called Monster Surf, Monster with an A. It may have had an organization from California. I think they might sell energy drinks or something, may have a similar kind of name. They actually came after.
That doesn't sound like a big deal at all.
Yeah, which was about a 2.5 year legal battle, which was not fun at all. And which we look back, we see as a blessing in disguise because it gave us the opportunity to realign who we were. Like I mentioned earlier, everyone would say, oh, I like your brand, but I don't surf. And I'd be like, it's about getting outside. So we really saw it as an opportunity to take all that I'd built, all that I'd learned and put it into an outdoor brand. And really brought the, I guess, creative energy in that part of the equation to get it off the ground and make that happen. So to answer your question, that's why we wanted to create such a unique word. Yeah. We also wanted to put a great meaning behind it. So what we did was we spent all night, one night, set up to like 4 a.m. going through words with cool meanings. And thought it was like the biggest waste of time. Woke up in the morning and saw 2 words on the page that really like stood out to me. It was this word Zoram, which meant fearless in Persian, and an African word full of life, Kali. And we put the first 3 letters and the last 3 letters together to create Zarali. And it means fearless and full of life. So not that many people actually know that. We didn't know how it would resonate with people when we launched. But it's really cool to see what happens when something gets momentum. Is like the word Zarali, I think, means so much to people, and it's so unique and has a great ring to it that it's like taken on its own meaning, which at the start it was just this like random sounding word. So we didn't know if it would really catch on, but it's been really cool to see how many people love the word Zarali, and yeah, it's really caught on.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. I love the story of how you managed to come up with this name. And somebody here has said, you've mentioned that you're going to be doing offline activities this year to foster the growth of the community and nurture your true fans. How will this be, and how many meetups? And somebody else has asked a question around, is there a perk for shareholder meetups as well? So maybe we can answer the 2 in 1.
Good idea. Yeah, so our meetups, we're launching in the next month a section on our website, which will be for the meetups, and we'll have a calendar of events. We've really had to hold back on the meetups the last 2 years, obviously with all the COVID restrictions. We just didn't want to get in the way of all of that. So we feel like the time's right now. So we're going to aim at doing monthly meetups. That may change based on, I guess, the world that we live in today and all the how quickly stuff can change. And we're based in, Elise and I are based in Ocean Grove, but we want to be able to make the meetups accessible around our whole country. So we'll aim to have an event in each state by the end of this year, or where we've got like core communities. And yeah, that'll be lots of fun. Shareholder meetup is a great idea. I haven't thought of that one. And maybe we could do like the world's largest board meeting at a campsite one day. I don't know. Maybe get a world record.
Sounds awesome. And actually a couple of other questions. Somebody here has asked if you're developing your own products or rebranding products, which are kind of mass produced in China already. I'm sure you covered this before, but yeah, over to you on this one.
Yeah, so we've got a really strong focus on product development. So all of our products are developed in-house here at Zerali. Jake and Elise head that part of our business up. And then we work with our suppliers to make those the vision for those products really come to life. So yeah, there's been a few instances where, because in our earlier days where quantities are quite low, we've had to like work from an existing model of product from one of our suppliers and try to like take what we like from it and take our ideas and kind of merge it into one. But yeah, all of our product development team, if you see the work that Candy does, she puts together these like 20-page, what we call a tech pack which has all the details of what
Yeah.
we're trying to achieve with the product. And that goes to the supplier. And then we work back and forth with iterating on the samples until we're happy with the final product.
Yeah, right. Yeah, awesome. And what is the valuation of the company in this round?
Yeah, great question. So we're just finalizing this currently, and that'll be available in the offer doc, which will hopefully be able to send out a draft to everyone who's signed up for the expression of interest prior to the private raise opening. Maybe a day or so before, you'll be able to get the offer doc and view all the financials, valuation, things like that. But we've basically based the valuation off a multiple of this year's revenue, which is quite comparable to other online brands in our space.
Awesome. And that is the end of the questions. We literally managed to get through 64 plus the chat questions. Yeah, so a real whole bunch of questions. And I really hope everybody else has enjoyed the session. It's been so great to do such a deep dive into the business and learn so much. I feel like you have not only been able to grow significantly, but everything that you consider around the business is doing it in a really sustainable way, which is the brands of the future. It's why, I mean, I personally enjoy my job because I get to work with companies like you. So that's a huge benefit for me. And I think really for everybody who's turned up today and has stayed until the end, even though we've basically gone an hour over, you're absolute legends. So thank you very much for your time. And we will do our very best to answer any other questions around the offer. And of course, we would love to see everybody get involved in the investment offer, which is opening next week. But if there's anything that happens between then, I'll be sending out the recording of this webinar. I am always available to help anybody out if they have any particular questions about equity crowdfunding or the process of getting involved as an investor.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much, guys. I can't believe we had so many people join for a marathon 2-hour session. It's been fun.
It really has been. Thanks so much, everyone. And thanks, Cam. That's been a truly enjoyable session to hear so much about Zarali and its growth.
Yeah. Thanks, Robin. And if anyone has any further questions, feel free to email me. It's just cam@zarali.com, and I'll get back to you there too.
Yeah, great. Well, everyone, enjoy the rest of your evenings. Cam, take care. I'll speak to you soon. Thanks everyone. See ya.
Bye.